I'm Maureen Ballatori, and this is Spilled Salt, a podcast on the thrills and spills from the food, beverage, and agriculture industries. Today's guest is Matt Cotton. He's the founder and CEO of Rooted Food Sales. He's also a keynote speaker and a food service advisor. And the context of our conversation today is primarily focused on the Rooted Food Sales component and Matt's work in food service as a whole. So food service, just for, listeners to get that basis of understanding, includes restaurants, colleges and universities, vending, concessions. We talked about C-stores quite a bit today, but it's that segment of outlets, so operators, as Matt calls them. So one of the things that I love that we talk about today is the relationship for a brand with operators and distributors. I get a lot of questions from clients about that, the way that works and what comes first. Is it the sales team and the operator, or is it do I need the distributor? Does the distributor sell for me? So we address a lot of those questions in today's discussions. This is a treasure trove of information for any food or beverage company that is interested in any way in food service. Enjoy the conversation. Hey, Matt, how are you?
I am good. Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. Glad to have you here. I would love for you to kick us off by talking a little bit about your work history leading up to the work that you're doing now.
For sure. So in a nutshell, I sold Vitamix blenders for 6.5 years, straight commission gig, mic'd up, pitch man. And I loved it. Truly, it was an amazing run. And that really dried up on a dime. So networked around, got connected to Bob Burke, who's a real legend in the industry, who lives like 20 minutes from me. And we got a cup of coffee. He introduced me to a startup food company in Newburyport, which is where I live. And yeah, I guess I had no industry experience, but I guess she was kind of drawn to hiring someone hungry and passionate, which I was and am. But so that was like, I don't know, 9-10 years ago. Came into the CPG world and quickly shifted to just all food service. Retail just wasn't my jam. Food service is my thing. And I've had three jobs in food service before starting Rooted, leading companies, leading brands into food service, growing a brand into food service, and started my own thing, Rooted Food Sales, just over 4 years ago. So March 12th, 2020, days before the world shut down.
So was that intentional? Like something happened, or it was just that was your launch date and it just so happened to coincide with the shutdown?
That was it. Yeah.
Oh, man.
That was not the plan. I was just got the courage. I mean, I was mostly terrified with a little bit of courage leading the way to start my own thing. And COVID was just in my own mind was just this like not real thing in the news far away. And then started Rooted, and then it got really, really real and everything shut down. And yeah.
So how did that affect you? Because we have some clients that, of course, you don't want to capitalize on something as awful as the pandemic and what happened, right? But there were some companies that did well, as a result of that happening. Like one of our clients was doing meals by mail, exploded during the pandemic, right? So was this a COVID hit and it was, oh shit, it was really, really bad, or was it in some ways beneficial to what you were doing?
It was for food service. It was straight bad.
Yeah.
For folks in grocery or maybe D2C, certain channels, it was beneficial for business. For food service, it was bad. I mean, the main channels we focused on then when it was just me is like college, university, restaurants. So just places that were just shut down. So yeah, the only thing I really had going for me is it always supposed to be lasting just like a few more weeks. So
Right.
kind of just like, you know, take that into brand exploration, partnership exploration calls. Yeah,
Yeah.
but it was all about to end.
Yeah. We like a week before the pandemic hit, we too had heard like rumblings, this is happening, and it's one of those, it's happening over here, right? Didn't feel like it was happening to me.
Mm-hmm.
And we made a major change with our largest client the week before the shutdown, and like had gone from this to this because it just wasn't a partnership that was working out. um, Thinking we've got all of these other irons in the fire, as you do as an entrepreneur, right? You're thinking 10 steps ahead
Mm-hmm.
of, I'm going to stick and move here and then I can do this. And all of those dominoes like disappeared when the pandemic hit. And like we had a really tough, like, especially 6 months from March and beyond. And in March of 2022, we had pivoted our focus to a focus on food, beverage, and agriculture at that time too. So it was kind of like, how do we get the word out about this? Is this appropriate? Like, what do we do? And so I realize we're 4 years out from that, but it was such a pivotal time, especially for you to launch the business at that time and have that coincide and still be here is a remarkable
It
feat.
was, yeah, I don't think I'd be able to relive it or run it back. But yeah, I'm super grateful. A lot of personal growth during that. I mean, during that first year and a half was brutal,
Yeah.
brutal. So a lot of personal growth and just a lot of strength growing rooted through that time. So wouldn't run it back, but truly grateful
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah. To have made it through the experience. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So tell everyone a little bit more about Rooted Food Sales and what you do.
Yeah. So we're a food service broker. I think at some point in time I'll think of a prettier name than broker, which I feel like has a bad connotation. But at the end of the day, I mean that's really what we do. We're
Yeah.
an outsourced sales agency. We're a team of 8. We represent 12 different brands in this moment in like the better for you, innovative, whole
Mm-hmm.
foodsy kind of space, and we sell their products into food service, which is many channels, but like I spoke about a little bit, college, university, restaurants, it could be vending or travel or premium C-store. It's
Mm-hmm.
another channel for us. Corporate like BNI.
Mm-hmm.
Those are our big channels through distributors like Cisco or US Foods for ingredient back of house items, and Vistar, Core-Mark, sometimes UNFI for front of house packaged items or beverage. So that's what we do. So not grocery retail, foods,
Right.
yeah, away from home food service.
Right. And so you just started to like scratch the surface on one of the questions that I had for you, which is I think that food service is a bit of a mystery to
Mm-hmm.
many people, right? Do I need a distributor? Can I have my distributor just sell? They don't do that, right? And so can you talk a little bit about sort of the whether it's the journey from product to a food service outlet, or some of the kind of the journeys, right, that like a brand has to go through in order to be able to be sold at that final destination.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Definitely. So for the most part, you do need a distributor. They're different distributors than retail, UNFI, KHE, even though both do distribute to some food service operators. Um, yeah, that's a bigger question. So um, getting distribution's hard. Yeah, getting into food service is hard. You really need to make sure there is enough interest, which is the by the book is 5 cases a week per SKU. Although honestly, more than that is really needed to force distribution. So it's really about finding an operator, finding a couple channels that you think make sense for your product, with
Mm-hmm.
coffee shops, college, university, convenience stores, whatever your product is.
Mm-hmm.
And then finding a large enough operator who can quote unquote force distribution, getting the operator interest, and then bringing that operator interest to the distributor and rolling up your sleeves and muscling it into distribution, because you really
Yeah.
do need distribution
Yeah.
in food service.
And that's a chicken and egg problem that a lot of early brands especially face, right? Is exactly what you were just talking about, is that it's a bit of a push-pull. Some of the questions that I get from clients are, well, what do I need first? Do I go get a distributor, or do I go find, the final the C-store that's going to sell my product? And they kind of have to happen simultaneously, right?
Yes, with operator interest leading the way.
Right.
Like if you can go to a Cisco or Cormark or Vistar, it doesn't matter. Said this line before. Doesn't matter how shiny, trendy, delicious your product is. Like, it's just not the business model of the distributor to like roll the dice and hope it moves.
Yeah,
I wish
right.
it was. In an ideal world, that'd be great, but it's just not. So, yes, they kind of need to happen simultaneously, but really it's an operator focused game. And then finding out who their distributors are and bringing that interest to the distributor.
Yep. And so let's talk a little bit about what makes a product a good fit for food service. Like, are there typical sort of categories that you find that work really well?
Yeah. Well, I can share how we get excited or not excited about a product.
Great.
If it's too niche or takes too much explaining, it just makes it doesn't mean there's not a path. It just means it's going to be hard. And, for us, I'd prefer it to be less hard.
Right.
And so it's like, trying to not give real life examples, but if it's, we all know what that means, right? If there's education that's needed, like I just spoke to someone yesterday and like such a good guy. I was like, hey, let's hop on a call. Like I want to try to like help out. And there was just going to be so much education needed.
Totally.
I just know like there's a path, but it's just going to be a long, tricky path
where
like an ideal item for our world is like going into a bigger category and it's just an awesome item. Like, let's say it's, I'll give a real life example. Like we represent Lumberg Family Farms. Like rice is a crazy competitive category. And so it's challenging, but like Lumberg is amazing. And there's so many reasons why certain parts of food service should be jazzed up for Lumberg. So like, that's a really fun sell. And when you get a win, the volume's great because it's not a niche category. Like
exactly. Yeah. So we work with Fee Brothers, which is a international bitters, cocktail syrups, cordials brand. They've been around for 5 generations, 160 years old. Pretty remarkable. We're the first formal marketing that they've ever done in 5 generations, which is pretty amazing. But so they have a massive opportunity because they've already got this engine of like brand advocates and loyal fans behind them, that the bartenders love them because they've got 22 flavors that is really different from like the number 1 bitters brand in the world has a handful. Fee Brothers is number 4, and so they can really stand out in that way where they have the audience that's going to pull it through. And so I'm not surprised that you mentioned that when you said, you've really got to have the demand in order for it to make sense in food service and with a distributor, right? To have enough product moving that it makes sense for them. And the other thing too about like the explanation component, I get that sometimes from clients as well, where I met with a guy last week, 87 years old. He said, I want to launch a salsa company. And his whole thing was he said it's immune boosting when you eat the whole jar. And I said, I think, that's great if you can prove the immune boosting and everything like that. But also you're talking about shifting human behavior from how do people typically consume that product to you're asking them to eat the whole jar.
Nightmare. Yeah. I mean, like sales, getting someone's attention is hard enough right? Because there's not proper, which we can explore if you want. There's not proper, like for the most part, like review schedules and stuff. So you get someone's attention is hard enough. And like you only have that brief period of time to capture their attention, get the momentum, and then while momentum's there, get the sale. So if too much
Yeah.
is swirling and it's just really hard.
Yeah. So let's talk about that sales cycle. How does that typically work for you? How do you get, like, let's say I want to take my salsa idea to market. I don't have one. I'm not launching one, but hypothetically, if I was, what does that typically look like? How do you get a product placed with a customer?
So if you were launching a salsa and did not have any distribution, what would the process
I
be?
guess what I'm trying to understand is, how do brands best work with rooted food sales? What is a scenario ideally look like for you? And then we can sort of explore some of the,
Once we're
before
with the
you've got.
brand and selling it, or once we're partnered with the brand selling it, or
Sure.
what's an idea?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So how do we sell and get after it with our brands? Well, right now is a real ideal time for college and universities. Like the ideal, like end of March through like maybe late June, as college and universities are really making their decisions for fall semester. So we're kind of in one foot in that world right now.
Okay.
And then, yeah, so when we're bringing on a new brand or a current brand, we're really identifying 2 or 3. More than that, I just like to be really focused. So 2 or 3 channels that really make sense, and then just getting after it. There's so many accounts in food service, and it's not like, once again, it's not like retail where it's like, all right, we know the players, and here's their review schedule. It's like there's an infinite amount of players in food service, so it's like, yeah, so whether it's, college university's great for this salsa for these couple reasons, and restaurant, like better for you restaurants, or restaurants who care about better for you ingredients, assuming you're made up salsas, like sustainable and really well made and stuff, so it's like, all right, we're going to go after the folks who have salsa on their menu, and just try to set up meetings and send out samples and just start to create the pipeline.
Yep. So really it's understanding the product and its customer fit, so to determine that best fit avenue or channel. Yep. And then you just go.
And we're not, it's not going to be like, oh, is Cisco good? Is US Foods good? Like, it's going to be like, all right, it's high-end Mexican restaurants. It's without a high-end Mexican restaurant, like salad bowl places who are using the salsa as this, and college university. And like, because you're making it, in this part of the country, we're going to focus on some local accounts as well.
Yeah.
And like, all right, go for just like 2-3 months, just go. And then like maybe pivot from there on what's working, not. And then when there's interest, okay, like Purdue University is excited. Okay, who are their distributors? Okay, these distributors, and then trying to open up distribution.
Yeah, that's great. I think it's great that you're being so clear that it needs to be that pulling from the customer first, and the distributor is an essential part of the story, but it has to come from that
operator interest. And I'd also say it's really important to not just learn about their primary distributor, because most larger accounts have multiple distributors, and the Cisco rep, US Foods rep, may be open and easy to work with, or they might have no interest in forcing a new item. But then you find out that they use a specialty distributor, a regional distributor, produce distributor, who's like pumped to pick up like 7 cases a week, and they're not that corporate of a distributor and easy to turn around. So when there's operator interest, who's your primary distributor? Oh, cool, Cisco US Foods, great. Who's your rep? And then also, are there any other distributors you use? Oh yeah, we occasionally buy from this specialty one and this regional one. Oh, cool. And then finding out, making them basically getting their commitment, like, hey, if this product was stocked, would you bring it in? Yeah, for sure. Cool. What do you think
Mm-hmm.
volume may be? Oh, we probably
Mm-hmm.
do like 8 cases a week. Okay, awesome. Well,
Mm-hmm.
like, let us take care of distribution.
Yeah.
Who's your Cisco rep? Who are these other reps name? And then leave them out of it and start working with the
Right.
distributor reps and
Which I
get
also
team ready
think,
to muscle and be aggressive in a
yes, I
friendly
think
way.
that's an important thing to talk about too. Because one of the things I wanted to also ask you about is, so you're here because I had Kyle Peters on the podcast, season 3, episode 3, and we were talking about margins.
Mhm.
And so we like to educate listeners, and kind of use these episodes as a means to not only promote you and the work that you're doing, but also educate about your category. So you just talked about the idea that you're getting that operator interest first, and then you're talking to their distributors, right, to
Mhm.
determine who's the best fit for your volume and your
Mhm.
specifics. But let's talk about the percentages and some of the like margins that a brand needs to have kind of planned into their matrix in order
Mhm.
to make those work. What's the typical fee that's paid to outsourced sales? What's a distributor cut usually take?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. A few different things going on here. So it's going to matter whether you're talking about a packaged good selling through like a more convenience distributor like
Mm-hmm.
Cornmark or Vistar. So that's going to be more similar to grocery retail
Mm-hmm.
versus traditional in, uh, frying oil, tomato sauce, salsa
Right.
going through Cisco US Foods. So to go with that example,
Yep.
you should expect with a major broadliner, as they're called,
Mm-hmm.
Cisco US Foods, to be in a 5% marketing agreement. Um, which, do you get something from that? Not really. When they share about it, they'll share what you get, but it's really
Mm.
just the cost of doing business. So it could be anywhere from 3 to 8%, kind of settled into 5% really being the norm. And what do you get for that? Yeah, you get open coded. So instead of just being in for Purdue University and no other accounts can see it, it's open. So if someone's like
Mm.
Salsa, they could see your product. You get access to the distributor reps, so their sales team. Um, what the markup will be, I'm sure this is real similar, the same, the retail grocery. They're like Whole Foods equivalent. They're like top tier accounts. They're Sweet Greens, Kavas might pay 5% markup. Um, and then, the Purdue University might pay 15%. And then the street account, quote unquote street account, which does make up the majority of their customers, might pay
Mm.
like 27 to 30% markup. And then there's really no like surprise money in food service, which I know is very different than retail.
Right.
You're really not paying a slotting fee to the distributor. There's no funky surprise chargebacks. Um, yeah, the distributor will have a show once or twice a year for a couple thousand, which is good,
Mm-hmm.
couple few thousand. Um, and then as far as it's trickier to talk about like the margin for the customer because it's so different, right? High end
Right.
restaurant or casino or hospital, so trickier there. Is
Right.
there any more clarity I can
No, I
discuss on
think
that
I
topic?
think that's great. You're saying somewhere between 10 to 35%, is your sort of margin in mind.
Is the markup going from the distributor to the customer?
Right, right.
Mm-hmm.
And so what should people expect to pay for engaging a sales team like you? And I hope that that's not, if that's too much, too broad to
Oh,
ask, like, well, it depends. You tell me, but
yeah, you're good. You're good. Although it really does depend.
yeah.
Our threshold is exploring with brands on a basis that are doing over 2 million in
Hmm.
food service sales through distribution. Yeah, I mean, in general, it's a percentage. You can certainly, in early rooted, it was retainer,
Hmm.
which varied depending when in rooted it was. But yeah, honestly, I think that the early sales and distribution should be done by the brand. I think
I
finding
agree.
an outsourced broker, agency to do that, you're just going to be disappointed. Like it's
Mhm.
honestly, it can be really hard and slow, and your expectations will probably be too high and too fast. And like the early learning and real early food service sales trenches should be done by the brand, in my opinion.
Yeah, and so it makes sense to engage a team like yours when they're ready to
Yeah,
accelerate. They want
yeah,
to throw fuel on the fire.
totally. Like, and all, yeah, bring like whether it's us or someone else, like bring a resume and that early
Yeah.
distribution to a broker. Like at least like
Hmm.
having no food service, like get that initial, so you know how hard it is. You understand the selling process more.
Hmm.
You're going to be so much
Right.
better equipped for a better relationship as well. Get that
True.
first Cisco, that first Vistar by yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember talking to one of the early guys from Vitamin Water,
Hmm.
and he said every single time I would walk into a coffee shop, I would bring a couple with me. I had a cooler in my car, I'd
Hmm.
pack it up every day, and then everywhere I would meet clients, I'd bring a couple in and I'd hand them to the barista, like, "Hey, I sell this, here's my card, here's a couple samples." Like it's that kind of hustle that I love, and that's really what you're talking about too, is you got to have some skin in the game to understand what we're talking about here and like where the direction for this is going so that your expectations are managed about what this looks like. And then we will be your fuel for the fire.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Give me a high time and a low time from the last 4 years at Rooted.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, high time jumps to my brain first in this moment. Yeah, I would say the last in two ways. Last because it was their final Expo East, and because it was the last one,
Mm-hmm.
it felt like a real celebratory moment. My wife came, which was really special, and it just like felt like a real rooted celebration. Christy, our VP, who's a dear friend, was there. Yeah, my wife Erin was there, and like it just felt like it was just like, oh, like the brands, our current brands, and just like our recognition. And then Wyclef John put on a concert there, and he came out into the crowd. My wife put on, she like gestured to him like, oh, can we put this on your head, like a Rooted hat? And
Yeah.
he ended up, he was like, yeah. And he ended up wearing a Rooted hat like the last half of the concert. And that whole event felt like a real, like, yeah, there was a lot of gratitude and a lot of celebration. Um, and
That's
challenging
amazing.
is,
Before you go like off of
is
that, we can't just like take that high point and then move on
yeah,
from it. That's such a cool thing. And I love those moments where, especially as the founder, right? All of this that you've been working toward all comes together in a moment and you're like, man, it's working,
yeah, totally. And
it
I
feels so
think,
good.
totally. And as you know, as much as I try to have gratitude as part of my life, it can be hard. And I
Yeah.
find that trade shows are a real time for reflection and just like, out of the normal day to day, and just like, oh, like we are like making progress. This is
Yeah.
cool. We're at this show, whether it's Expo or NRA, which is the big restaurant show actually happening next week. You're like, oh, we're in, cool to think about now compared
Yeah.
to last year. Um, whew, and then low points. Yeah, honestly, a low point for me is, with a ton of respect, because we've had some hires come in who weren't a
Mm.
fit, really good people. The moment I realize that someone's not a fit it's so painful, because like it's
Yeah.
not something that I'm not gonna like people please, and like in that
Mhm.
like in that moment. So like all of a sudden when I like realize, without giving specifics, I'm like, oh, this person's, oh, they're not a fit. Oh
Yeah.
no. It's that's a really hard
Yeah.
moment for me. So Yeah, so many, such a journey. How many times can I say such? Such a journey the last four
Yeah.
years, and I'm uh, I'm so grateful. Like I said at the beginning, just so grateful for the personal growth,
Mhm.
walking this entrepreneurial fire. So grateful for the current team, who's just a bunch of bright, amazing humans who are incredible at their job. And yeah, we're in a really good spot as a company with
Yeah.
incredible brands, incredible people, and yeah.
So before I ask you my last question, which is what's next for Rooted Food Sales, I want to just say I I think the even just the way that you position that about when someone's not a fit is something that every business owner, struggles with, but I think that that's the right way to think about it is fit, right? That there is a better, if this is not the fit for them, there is a better fit for them somewhere else. And
Mhm.
that really frees my mind up. And I present the discussion in that way when I have to have one of those difficult chats, is to say, this I don't think is working for these reasons. And I want you to find a place that is a better fit for you and your skills and, all of those things. And so in my mind, it softens it a little bit that I want the best for you. I want you to feel great about the work that you're doing.
Totally. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Having yes, 100%.
Yeah. What's next for Rooted Food Sales?
Thank you for the question. This is fun because, as we were talking about before we press record, I'm usually the podcast host. And it's fun. It's fun to receive questions, take it in, and see what comes out. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. So we're in a really strong place as a company. So really grateful where we're at and just like digging in for our current portfolio, who's such a strong group of brands. Um, but yeah, expansion with
Mm-hmm.
growing our current brands, adding some more high quality brands, so we can
Mm-hmm.
just like widen our ship and adding some. There's a couple regions I want to fill
Mm.
in, and just adding more bright, fiery humans to our rooted team.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you nurture your culture, which you clearly are, right? Because you're thinking about fit and, all of that stuff. I think that makes that growth that much more exciting too, because I can add this excitement and energy and share it with another person.
Yeah, it's the only someone needs to be a culture fit.
Right.
Like they literally need to be. They don't need to be like exactly like the kind of. It's not like there's an exact kind of rooted person, but like they need to be on the same frequency
Yeah.
ish as our
Right.
team. It's the only way it works.
Yeah. And that doesn't necessarily mean I totally agree, by the way. And I think that in that what you mean is they don't have to work in the same way, but
No.
they have to align with the same kind of energy and values, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Almost more like energy than like energy and values
Mm-hmm.
and
Yep.
like there's a lot to unpack there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of layers to that. Well, this is amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your education and your knowledge about the industry and your path to where you are now. I'm very excited to continue to watch you grow the company and have an impact in the brands that you work with and the folks that you bring onto the team. So thanks for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to Spilled Salt. I'm your host, Maureen Ballatori. Spilled Salt is an Agency 29 production. Agency 29 is a brand building firm for food, beverage, and agriculture brands. Learn more at agency29.com. For more information about the podcast, visit spilledsaltpodcast.com. Use that website to send me questions or recommendations for future guests. I always love hearing from you. Spilled Salt is available anywhere you enjoy your podcasts. Please like and subscribe so you never miss an episode.